As we've reported, the ethics watchdog group Crew recently filed a complaint with the Senate Ethics Committee and the Office of Congressional Ethics against Republican Senators Sam Brownback of Kansas, Tom Coburn of Oklahoma, Jim DeMint of South Carolina, John Ensign of Nevada, also Republican Congressman Zach Wamp of Tennessee and Jerry Moran of Kansas, and Democratic Congressman Heath Shuler of North Carolina, Bart Stupak of Michigan, and Mike Doyle of Pennsylvania. The allegation is that all of these men paid or are still paying below market rates for their housing in Washington. Reportedly $600 a month in 2002 and also reportedly $950 a month last year. All these men live or have lived at C Street, a 12-bedroom, 9-bathroom, $1.8 million townhouse with housekeeping services and meal services available that's run by a secretive Christian organization that's known as The Family. Now, this ethics filing has led to a bunch of local press coverage in these politicians' hometown newspapers. And one of the targeted congressmen is now lashing out. Congressman Jerry Moran of Kansas is quoted in the Topeka Capital Journal today as telling a student who asked him about C Street that any complaints about him living at C Street are rooted in, quote, a national effort to exclude matters of faith by public servants. He added that, quote, I don't think that my interest in studying the Bible with other colleagues of mine in Congress ought to be seen as anything but good, or at least personal. Agreed. One's interest in studying anything, including the Bible, is emphatically personal. But no one's complaining about Jerry Moran's Bible studying. The complaint is about Jerry Moran's rent, about the evidence that he is an elected official getting his rent subsidized, and he's not reporting that subsidy either as income to the IRS or as a gift like he's supposed to Congress. It's not religion that is at issue here, it is ethics and money, and the threat that's at the root of all the rules about ethics and money, which of course is corruption. Bible study away, Congressman. Who's paying your rent? In his own defense, Congressman Moran also tried to downplay his living circumstances, telling the Capital Journal, quote, I have a small bedroom and a bath I share with other people. He also says his rent is market-based, not subsidized, and he says he brought his own bed with him to C Street. As to the merit of his claim that he is paying what anyone else living in a 12-bedroom, 9-bathroom townhouse close to Capitol Hill with housekeeping services and meal services would pay, as to the merit of that claim, let's turn to someone who has actually been inside the house on C Street, Jeff Sharlet. He is author of The Family, The Secret Fundamentalism at the Heart of American Power. Jeff, it's nice to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Rachel. Good to talk to you.
I assume that you haven't been and I haven't been. Neither of us have been in Representative Moran's bedroom. But from what you've seen and what you've been able to report about the facilities at C Street, do you believe that he and these other members of Congress were really paying market-based rent?
Oh, absolutely not. It's a beautiful place, and in fact, you go in. There's as you mentioned, there's maid service. There's a cook. They're hosting diplomatic meetings there, and they're not bringing ambassadors from around the world to sit on Jerry Moran's box spring. It's a luxury place, and the fact is they know that. If you go back in 2002, Lewis Sheldon, Christian right leader, said a lot of congressmen don't have $1,500 to pay for rent, so C Street does that for them. For those who are members of the fellowship, it provides this subsidized housing.
When we talked to Senator Coburn's office about this last week, his spokesman defended the C Street rent situation for Senator Coburn by saying he hasn't received subsidized rent. He pays more than $10,000 a year for a room and bathroom only. Now, $10,000 a year works out to like $830 a month, which is still incredibly cheap for a room at a fancy townhouse with meals and housekeeping. But the other people who have lived at C Street or who live there now keep saying this. It's just this room. I just have this one room there. Is it your understanding that they have access to all the common space of this giant mansion, too?
Yeah, there's a big, beautiful, big screen TV down in the main common space. There's a beautiful dining room, which is used for hosting formal banquets. There's a lovely breakfast nook that is also sort of a conference room. There's a beautiful kitchen. It's really a space that almost doubles as a conference center, and also doubles, frankly, as a hangout for Washington Congressman Zach Wamp, a longtime resident, said this is the place place to hang out, to talk policy, to watch sports. It's a great place. I recently spoke to a young woman who, a young evangelical woman, thought she was going to do an internship in Washington, found herself recruited into C Street and turning down sheets for John Ensign, and she said it really sort of galled her that it wasn't just those congressmen, it was also people like Oliver North hanging around, and she was expected to be at their beck and call.
And just to be clear, people who think they're getting sort of internships are the people who are providing essentially maid services at no cost to the members of Congress for maintaining these facilities that they live in.
Sure, and there's men who are part of the family who live at the house where I lived for a while called Ivanwald, who were brought over when I went over there. I was expected to be, I was told that my job was to be there as a servant for these congressmen. So, you know, whether Tom Coburn is paying $800 or twice that, that's the best bargain in Washington.
Finally, Jeff, briefly, any reaction from anybody in the family that you can report as to this complaint by Crew, the complaint to the IRS by these clergy members in Ohio who are upset about the family and C Street's tax status and the ethical status of these members of Congress living there?
Yeah, very puzzling reaction. I managed to get Tim Coe, one of the leaders of the organization, on the phone today. I wanted to talk to him about the Ohio pastor's complaint. I told him I wanted to get his perspective, represent him fairly. His first response was he didn't know them from Adam, and then he acknowledged that he had, in fact, tried to talk with them, despite the fact that the Fellowship Foundation's official response is they have nothing to do with C Street, and then said that he had decided that they were crazy because they expected him to apparently abide by some standard of transparency to allow a reporter in the room for that conversation, and he said that's just crazy that he should be expected to be publicly accountable.
While he's subsidizing the rent of members of Congress. Jeff Sharlet, author of The Family, The Secret Fundamentalism at the Heart of American Power. Thank you so much for your time and your just invaluable reporting on this, Jeff. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel.